This response begins in Ramallah 2012. We are where we can not but be, at the tipping point or the point of foreclosure, performing the gestures of the post in the heart of the colonial, burying the liberation in the never was of the almost happened. We here perform the same empty gestures again and again, occupy empty art spaces, not knowing what imprint we leave, closer than ever to the facade of a state that was not, to the regimes of who is to be loved and who is not, what is to be said and what cannot, what can be imagined and what must not. We are on the fault lines of a shifting terrain, using a dead language, unable to imagine a different letter, sentence, lexicon, to think of the origin of this power and its mutability. We are here where empire still draws a deep breath and exhales in the air that settles in our pores. We are here witnessing the raw, the horror, of not knowing revolt from counter-revolt, for one moment anxiously feeling perhaps they are the same. We are believing and disbelieving. We are in the midst of the not yet material, or perhaps the already determined, inhabiting a time of radical potentiality and its insurgence. We are in search of a new political language, in need of this, always on the verge, always becoming, and yet we hold on to a dead language. We are a we, not just as artists, but as a common. The urgency of the moment demands a new imaginary. After all, what do artists as artists matter now? We feel the density of the ongoing moment, see time as density that is breathing, folding, moving, see the archaic in the contemporary, and yet the perpetual present expands, swallowing all other moments, propelling our imaginary back into crisis. We are asked to dance, 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 the excess of the moment threatening to overwhelm us, producing infinite information only to render it obsolete. Still, we are in search of ways to see beyond the immediate, see the breaks as openings. We are in search of ways to see what we are not yet able to see. We are here on the fault lines of a shifting terrain. We are here where we cannot but be, seeking other ways of being and becoming. Always a question of position, of the need to constantly reshift the existing terrain, to be full of desire, to participate in the potential.
So I think that response very much kind of engages with what we've been thinking about with a certain degree of urgency across the last year and a half particularly. And I think it also gives a sense of why we're working on this project. Daniel has asked us to speak about the future archivists, and what I want to say is that it's a project that's still very much also itself in a state of becoming. It's very much in the kind of research stages, so we're presenting something that is not yet.
It's not a presentation.
it's not. Yeah, it's not yet.
They didn't want to present it, so it's a secret presentation.
It's something that we're still very much formulating, and that keeps producing new questions. And I think we're only going to speak about a certain aspects of the project because it's a kind of deep well that keeps on producing new thoughts and new ideas. But I think the project very much started with our need to find a way to kind of grasp the moment of all the kind of tremendous changes and kind of potentials, and at the same time defeats and crises that were kind of emerging around us, and we felt this need that we wanted to think about how we could read this moment, how we could make sense of it, and try to, well, I mean, comprehend it, although I think there's a kind of different readings of what comprehension is. So this project is very much about the moment we're living and thinking about the archive to come, which we'll get into in detail. But it's also about resisting the kind of temptation to be obsessed with the now and with the new, which in a way is always producing kind of huge amounts of information and then kind of very quickly rendering it as obsolete. And just with saying that, I'll let Bassel talk about how and why the project began and give you a more kind of concrete sense of what this project
Well, actually,
is about.
when the project began is also a kind of, the project began during January 2011, which was about close to its second year now, which is when the kind of Egyptian revolution was kicking off. And from Palestine, we were obviously receiving all this information mostly through the internet. So through internet videos, through Twitter, through Facebook, and this is how we were kind of receiving this information. So what was happening was we were really kind of excited about the moment and following it very closely. But there was also a kind of bombardment of material, a bombardment of information. Sorry?
Videos.
Yeah, mostly videos, but also, I mean, if you, for example, if you look at Twitter and you kind of have the hashtag Egypt or the hashtag Tahrir Square, at the time of heightened action or the kind of thing, you see the kind of stream of you don't actually see anything because it's moving so fast. So you stop actually seeing what's happening. Similarly, was obviously with these videos. And what would happen was I would see we would see like 10 videos, and then maybe the next day I would come and tell someone, oh, you have to see this video, and then I would go onto YouTube to try to find this video, and I wouldn't be able to find it anymore, because if you would type Tahrir or Egypt, you would get today's 200 videos, and then or more obviously, but what happened was that it was like that moment was lost, it was gone. So really this is the kind of this is what kick-started the project. It was like we wanted to save that moment. We didn't want that moment to go away as well. So it was like, so we started collecting YouTube videos essentially, and that was the kind of trigger of or the conception of the whole project.
Yeah, I mean, the impulse for our need to somehow try to hold on to these videos, which was the kind of only documentation that we had at this moment existed. And I think it's interesting what Bruce was saying, is that all the kind of official media, for many days there's nothing appearing, and so the only way that you could get a sense of what was actually happening was through these videos, and it made us really think about how the internet is this kind of very huge archive that's constantly growing, and that's opening very new possibilities for ordinary people to actually narrate their lives and the events that are happening around them, from the seminal to the mundane. And
perhaps like people themselves become archivists in a way, so the users that upload these videos become...
Just to give you an idea, we work very much with a lot of archive material, and then we suddenly felt that perhaps we weren't looking in the kind of right direction, because here we found this, huge archive before us that we'd never actually considered before. And maybe you want to just play a video from Egypt?
So yeah, one thing, I'm going to play a video, but kind of playing this video by itself defeats the whole... yeah, okay, we'll talk about it.
Just to give you a sense of what kind of videos we were collecting from Egypt.
You don't have that one open, do you?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so just to give you a bit of context so you know what you're looking at. This video was shot during the kind of January 25th. It was on the outskirts of Tahrir Square, while people were exiting. People were singing a song. They formed like a kind of line, and they were singing a song, and the lyrics of the song were kind of encouraging people to come back to Tahrir. So the lyrics say something like, we're coming back tomorrow and we're bringing our friends, and we're coming back after tomorrow and we're bringing our neighbors. That kind of, and it's just repeated. So it's just kind of encouraging the people that are leaving to come back the next day. Thing is that there's a guy yelling in the end, if you notice, and what that guy is saying is, don't forget to upload all your footage online when you get home, so that we can see a brighter tomorrow without Hosni Mubarak, etc., etc. Please upload. Like, it's just a reminder to upload your videos online.
Yeah, so I think that also what we were starting to engage with is that people actually did see themselves as kind of archivists of sorts, and there was this very strong impulse that people have to document and record their lives, and increasingly they were able to do that, but in a way it also was expressing another impulse, which is the need to share this material, to circulate this material, and to produce a kind of common ground, a commonality that people feel. And I think that what was very interesting is how this kind of very unofficial, unorganized, and I have to say quite under-recognized archive is constantly questioning and subverting official archives, and it's opening a field of potentialities.
Also the logic of the archive, which always, in its nature, the archive is excluding something always, excluding others and including some things. So the internet actually allows everything to be included, but to a point.
We'll talk about. Maybe you'll show them first. For us, how we're just trying to figure out how to negotiate. It's not planned, this presentation. So in a sense, it's kind of like we started to see this material almost as kind of digital traces that are on the kind of fringe, but largely these traces are how we are actually experiencing the moment. And it's through these traces that many of us are actually creating our sense of the moment and creating our memory of this moment. So maybe we should play we're going to play. It was very hard to choose what videos to play because now we've amassed quite a large collection of videos, which we'll talk about the problems of that very soon. And also, we're very much working in a way that's trying to connect the videos to each other and not see them in isolation. So it was difficult for us, but I think we'll play a few videos that give you a sense of different kinds of material that we're collecting. Which one? Let's say,
Maybe talk about this a bit. Well, yeah, obviously, like she said, these videos are, it defeats the purpose of playing them by themselves, because that whole idea is to kind of make connections between things and not take them as face value as a singular video. But what are the meanings behind this? What is beyond this image? So this video is just a kind of really a random, seemingly mundane video of probably the father of these kids filming them. Why I know it's the father is because of the song that's playing in the back that he actually obviously put on the video before he uploaded it. And the song's lyrics are about how, like, it's kind of a mocking song, mocking being poor, and not having, not being able to support your family, and that's the lyrics of the song.
And they're standing in front of one of the new kind of commercial towers that are being built in Ramallah,
Yeah. So,
in the West Bank.
so it kind of expresses the kind of neoliberal kind of takeover of Ramallah, which exists at the moment. And
it's a very bizarre video.
مني الغالي إلا منسافر سنتين ونرجع عالضيعة ضاع العمر وبعد حسين ما خلص هالبايعة ويلي 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 الله يعين العين وعيله عايش عالشمعة مهموم.
And it keeps going on and on. He films his kids in the tower, then his kids in the tower, and the song in the back is just talking about how they're struggling. Well, the lyric, obviously, he's not the person singing, but the song is about a struggling family that can't feed their kids, etc., etc. So, yeah. Maybe another video. This one. This.
I mean, obviously, a lot of them are very, very pixelated, and that's also what's interesting for us, is this kind of, you know, the digital image, which is completely immaterial, and then the more that it gets shared and circulated, the more that it actually becomes degraded in a way. But that's also another thing that we've been thinking about. Anyway, just to give you a sense of how it's very pixelated.
This video, also to put it in context, is in a village in the West Bank, and it's the Israeli military has also military trucks that come and destroy. You know, they're not just kind of Caterpillar or normal thing, but they're also armored, as in they belong to the military. So yeah, this is probably pretty obvious, but just to tell you where it is.
كله في طريق دير بالك ضربوها تشوف
Just to kind of give you. Okay, this we actually streamed from YouTube and the thing because
downloading without the subtitles.
It's downloading without subtitles and it's in Spanish, so.
This is
from the miners.
The miners.
The miners in Spain.
Lo que digo y es que el gobierno lo que tenía que hacer era dar ejemplo, quitar el 64% de los sueldos de todo el congreso que hay allí, la panda de comedores que hay allí, que ellos lo quiten a ellos, el 64%, y habrá dinero para sanidad, dinero para educación, dinero para los mineros, para el transporte y para todo. Que esos hijos de puta están subiéndose los sueldos, comiendo a papu lleno y los demás pasando fama. La gente obrera lo que tenía que hacer era tirarse todos a la calle y mandar a ese hijo de la gran puta al suelo, al cementerio, por hijo de puta, y al platanito. Eso.
So anyway, it's just to give you a sense of the kind of material that we have.
So,
But in a,
sorry, just to say one thing about, we're also kind of, what we started to do as well is follow kind of specific users, because you find that, you find more kind of trails and more interesting kind of videos through that. For example, this user who has this also has a lot about the protests in Greece and lots of different places. So following users is also kind of interesting and leads you to more kind of findings.
yeah, I mean, in a way, what we the kind of more that we started thinking about this, what we started to think about was the kind of contradiction that we were finding was that while the internet is basically opening this possibility for really kind of democratized forms of bearing witness and kind of spontaneously constituted archives, at the same moment, the huge amount of information that's constantly being produced and uploaded means that there's this continual stream, and in this stream somehow a lot of the older information is always being replaced by the newer information, and what you end up with sometimes is a kind of is an inability to kind of comprehend all this material.
Inability to grasp the moment, so it's always a kind of passing moment.
So it kind of overwhelms you, and in a sense it's kind of really resonates with how we're thinking about the moment, which is full of potential and also in a sense disillusionment. So also trying to see these kind of new forms of kind of bearing witness and narrating your lives or events around your life, or this new archive as something that is both an archive and isn't an archive, because to some extent it's actually quite, you know, as much as it's radical, as much as it's quite close to the logic of capital sometimes, which is always very much obsessed with the new, with this sense of kind of digesting and then